and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you from beautiful Budapest here in Central Europe. I hope everybody is having a great weekend so far. Hi Hung, how are you doing? All right, so today's class is IELTS speaking. We will focus on part 2, the cue card. Hi, Begzod. And as usual, our materials come from our premium IELTS preparation websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for the general version of the test. While we wait for a few more members to join in, I'll quickly show you those websites. This is what the academic website looks like with the blue background. Click that red button to join. Use code LIVE20, LIV20 for a 20% discount. Here is the general version of our website with the green background. Click that red button to join. And once you click that, you will have this page here, and then you can fill out the form to join the premium course. Every day, we help hundreds of students pass their IELTS exams with great strategies, over 100 hours of video lessons, 6 original practice exams, and much, much more. All right, if you have questions about the exam, about our products, just send me an email. adrian@aehelp.com. Hi Parminder, hi Amarjeet, hi Roshni. Members, do send me requests for these members classes. As you know, you have 3 of these members chat classes every week. So send me some requests for task 2, part 2 speaking, question types, and so on. Hi Kesey. All right, today, this class, speaking part 2. After this class, we will have another class focusing on speaking part 3. Let's take a look at today's question. So here we go. All right. Members, this is the question for today. Part 2. Talk about an interesting animal that you have seen. You should say what it is and what it looks like. When did you see it? Where was it? What made this animal so interesting? Kind of a unique topic today because you'll notice that it's not really an object. It's not really a person, a place. It's an animal. Now, of course, it's possible that you get a part 2 topic about an animal. And you do have to be ready for it as well. It's kind of like a mix between an object and a person, right? So you describe it, you describe where you see it, what it does, so kind of like a person with appearance and actions, but also kind of like an object with its location, its origins. All right. So, of course, you will have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about this topic. Okay, so members, kind of a fun topic for today. Let's see where we go with this. So this is an animal. Okay, kind of like an object plus a person. Okay, that's kind of the way to think about this one. Okay, what should I do? Members, what should I do if I have 1 minute to prepare my answer? What would be a good next step? I turn over the card. Of course, I read the questions. What would be my next step here? Yeah, Begzod, it's a little bit of a unique topic. I thought I would challenge you for something a little bit different, but of course you could see this on your next IELTS exam. Begzod says, think about its appearance. Don't jump ahead, Begzod. We don't even know what animal we're thinking about it yet. Roshni says, visualize. Yeah, I think visualizing is a good idea here. before I do that, so before I really get into details, there's two important points that I should pay attention to right away. Yeah, Hung says, well, maybe we should figure out the animal. Yeah. Begzod says identifying the topic is a good starting point. I agree with you, Begzod. What is the topic here? So what is the topic, members, in this case? Yeah, definitely when you get a unique part 2 question, you should always identify the topic and the controlling idea so you give a good answer. Okay? Bagzod, you're combining the controlling idea a little bit with the topic, but you're right. Yeah, it is an interesting animal that you have seen. Okay? I could just say an interesting animal. And then for the controlling idea, I could say I have seen plus the questions. Okay, so this would be, yeah, Kisi, very good. So this would be an effective way to break down this, this question. Okay, first, identify the topic as an interesting animal. So it's an interesting animal, not just an animal. Okay, you want to be very careful. If you say dog or cat, it's going to be very tricky and you might not get a very good band score. Okay, so it has to be an interesting animal, clearly something unique. And then the controlling idea is something that you have seen. So it's not just an interesting animal in the world, but an animal that you have actually seen, right? Plus the other questions. So where did you see it, and so on. Okay, so you've identified that. Now what do you do? So you've turned over the card, you read the questions, you realize that you need to talk about an interesting animal. You need to talk about an interesting animal that you've actually seen. What else should you do? Here, what would be your next smart step to get a high band score? Here, you could get into some trouble, even if you have... Yeah, okay, so Hung says maybe list some animals. So think of some animals. Okay, prepare bullet points. Definitely think of some animals. So let's do that now. And again, when you think of animals, what should you consider? So you should think of animals, absolutely. What do you need to keep in mind? For this question, having the right thinking before you start speaking could be the big difference between getting a band 7 or a band 6 on your IELTS speaking. Yeah, very good. Hung, very good. I love how you're picking up these important points from the lessons. Okay, so you have to think of a unique animal which is easy to describe. Absolutely. If you get to this idea, you're going to be okay. So very, very important. So think of a unique animal that is easy to describe. Why is that an absolutely critical idea or thought before you begin writing your notes and before you begin speaking? So why is it absolutely critical that you do this? Why is it absolutely crucial that you do this? hopefully some of you are probably thinking, well, if I talk about a unique animal, yeah, so the speaking goes smoothly. Very good, Begzod. Yeah. If you choose a rare type of animal that is difficult to talk about, even if you have good English skills, you could find yourself in a very tough situation where you're stuck for words, you're stuck for vocabulary to describe the appearance or the behavior of the animal. So you want to keep it simple. Okay, so let's create a list then. What would be some good examples of unique animals that are easy to talk about? Give me some ideas. What would be some good animals to choose from? So let's think about a few. Okay, Hung says elephant. All right. Begzod says giraffe. Okay. Parminder says elephants as well. Roshni says hummingbird. All right. Begzod says zebra. Okay, Kisi says a bird that can sing a song. Kisi, you need to think of a specific animal. Hung, a cat would not be an interesting animal. Although we could argue that, sure, cats and dogs are interesting animals, I don't think the examiner will find that answer unique enough. Okay? Crocodile could be a good one as well. Okay. Maybe a parrot. All right. So again, visualizing a parrot could be a good one. Okay. Everybody knows what a parrot is. It's a type of bird. I think Kisi, this would be a good choice for you. All right. Elephant is definitely one that comes to mind quickly for people, but is it really easy to talk about? Is it easy to talk about an elephant? Here is an elephant, just very quickly. Okay, I'm going to draw an elephant for us here. Okay. Sorry to all the elephants that don't really quite look like that, but there's our elephant. Okay. All right, so this is our elephant. We have a visual picture of it in our mind, sure. What is this part of the elephant? A penguin could be okay. Preeti, birds are animals, okay? So in English, we consider birds animals for sure. A bird is a type of animal, belongs to the animal kingdom. Even insects do. Hung, it is not a long nose. Okay. So this part of the elephant is what? This part of the elephant is the trunk. Okay, it's called a trunk. It's got a special name. T-R-U-N-K. Okay, trunk. That's right, Preeti. So the reason I'm showing you this is because if you don't know this vocabulary, if you don't know that the elephant's long nose is called a trunk, you might not want to pick the elephant as the animal. Okay, so be very careful. Make sure that you can describe parts of the animal, especially what it looks like. All right. If I have might as well learn some vocabulary here. If I have a parrot like this, right? Okay. What is this part of the parrot or this part of any bird? Okay. So again, make sure that you can talk about the animal that you're going to choose. It's very important. So this is the trunk, right? What is this part? What is the mouth of the bird called? In English, of course. And make sure that you're not using a dictionary or you're not looking it up online as I'm teaching this, because you won't have that option in the actual IELTS exam. Okay, this is called the beak. Right? It's called the beak of the bird. Yeah, Preeti, very good. All right, how about the this part of the bird? It's not the fur. What is that called? So this part of the bird that allows it to fly and keeps it warm or keeps it dry in the water. What is that called? Yeah, so Preeti, that's called the feather. Okay. Yeah. So Bagzod's asking a really good question. Bagzod says, really, I need to learn such words? Yeah, Bagzod, it's a good idea before you sit your exam to know basic animal anatomy. Okay, so definitely good to review some vocabulary. The trunk is unique to an elephant, so that's quite specific, Bagzod. But feathers and beak and wings, of course, that's common to all birds. You could have a reading passage which talks about birds and their anatomy and where they live, their habitat. So you can easily come across words like feather and beak in an IELTS exam, especially academic, but it could be in general as well. So basic anatomy of the animals, it's good to review that. So if you haven't spent any time learning about animals, maybe now's a good time to pick up a book and read a little bit or watch some nature shows about animals and learn these basic parts of animals, okay? Definitely, animals are a big part of our planet, and it's good to know a bit of English around it, for sure. Okay, so the reason I sidetracked here a little bit is because I wanted you to remember that when you're choosing your topic for your Part 2 response, make sure that you're choosing a topic that you're comfortable speaking about. Okay, so far we have the elephant, we have the giraffe, we have the hummingbird, the zebra, the crocodile, the parrot, we have to be careful that we can talk about them. All right, let's go with a little bit of a unique choice here. I can't remember which one of you suggested this, but let's go with the hummingbird. Does everybody know what a hummingbird is? Say yes if you do, say no if you don't. I want to make sure that all of you have some idea before we go ahead with this topic. I think hummingbirds are quite common around the world. So I think it's a good choice. Hung says it's a very small bird. Bagzod says no. Hung says yes. Casey says yes. Roshni says yes. Okay, sounds like everybody's got a good idea of what a hummingbird is. Here, let's do something fun. I'll help you out a little bit here. Okay. That's what a hummingbird looks like. Okay, there is your hummingbird. Now, is it clear what we're talking about? Is everybody clear about what is a hummingbird? Yes, Amarjeet, it can fly backwards. In fact, it can even fly in one spot. It can be stationary. So that's why it's a good choice, because it's a unique animal. We can describe it. There's a lot of descriptive words for the hummingbird. Everybody probably has an idea of what it eats, right? I don't know about changing colors, but sure, maybe some kinds of hummingbirds can. Okay. All right. So let's go with the hummingbird. Yeah, it's very fast flying. All right. Okay, so let's go back to the question. So when we're describing the hummingbird, let's imagine that we're taking our notes, okay? So let's step back a little bit. members, and let's just review. Okay, we get this card, we turn it over, we're a little bit surprised. Oh, talk about an interesting animal. Not really an object, not really a person, place, or event, or an idea. Something unique. What's going to happen here? Identify the topic, an interesting animal. Identify the controlling idea that you have seen. Okay, now you have this. So you're visualizing, you're listing 2, 3, 4 different unique animals that you have seen. One that comes to mind is the hummingbird. Great. So now you've identified the hummingbird as a good choice. And now you're going to talk about its appearance. You don't need to write down appearance. You can just write down the letter A. What should I do in my notes? Hung, that's a very good question. So Hung is asking, should I talk about an animal that I've seen on TV or one that I've seen in real life? Hung, even if you saw it on TV, when you talk about it, pretend like you saw it in real life. It just sounds better. Okay, so it's a very good question, Hung. In this case, talk about it like you've seen it in real life, not just on TV. Okay, even if you saw it on TV. That's okay if you saw it on TV, just pretend like you actually saw it in real life. Okay, all right, so the appearance. Now, you said very small. How small? Okay, remember, part 2, use visible, use quantitative language. So you said the hummingbird is small. How small? Okay, Begzot says long pointy beak, but before we get ahead of that, okay, very good. So Hung says about 5 centimeters or 2 inches. Yeah. Okay. So it's about 5 centimeters long. Sure. Roshni says 7.5 to 13 centimeters long. Roshni, don't just look at Wikipedia for the hummingbird. They can be even smaller, I believe. In British Columbia, we have some very tiny ones. Okay, but they're small. Now, if you don't know the exact measurement, like 5 centimeters is okay, 10 centimeters is okay, you can say it's about the size of a small mouse. Okay, to give the person an idea. It's got a long pointy beak. Now, you don't have enough time to write all of this information in your 1-minute preparation time. So, all you have time for is to write 7 centimeters long, long pointy beak, colorful. Okay. What does it actually do? Okay. What does it do? What does the hummingbird do? What's its behavior? So, it's agile. It can fly backwards. It can fly in one spot. It's very fast. What else? Okay, Kesey says it's got white, red, and brown feathers. Sure. Okay. These are the ones that I know you know, so that's why I've put them up here. What else does the hummingbird do? Do you know any interesting? Okay. Okay, so Hung says it flies around flowers. So think about, yeah, what does it eat, Bagzod? What does the hummingbird eat? Why does it have that long, pointy beak? Agile, Arjit, means that it's very maneuverable. So it means it can fly sideways, forward, backward. It doesn't really eat insects, Preeti. Hummingbirds are not for insects. In fact, some insects are larger than hummingbirds. But Preeti, if you actually said, I think the hummingbird eats insects, then the examiner's not going to judge you. Okay. It eats nectar. That's right. Okay. Very good. Yeah. Roshni says they have a unique voice. It's called a chirp. They're chirping. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Okay, in English, the voice, especially of a hummingbird, is a chirp. They're chirping. Okay. Roshni says pollen. It's more the nectar. Okay, good. So we get the idea. Now, again, members, you don't need all of this information. Here, I'm just giving you some vocabulary as well. You want to think about as much of this as possible. And think outside the box. So when you're thinking about the hummingbird, of course, the first thought for behavior is the flying. It's a very quick flying bird. It can fly in very interesting patterns. But don't forget about its other behaviors, like its voice, what it eats, its reproduction. And in fact, you'll be surprised. One interesting fact about hummingbirds is they migrate long distances. And can always find their way back home. So even though hummingbirds are these tiny little birds, they actually fly on the west coast of North America all the way from Mexico up to Alaska, believe it or not. So they make a journey of several thousand kilometers, these tiny little birds. It's absolutely incredible. It's like as if a human made a journey to the moon and back to find your partner, okay? And they find their partners. I don't know if they partner for life. I'd have to check that. But anyway, okay, so they have very interesting behaviors. You don't need to know all of them, just a few of them so you can keep talking. All right, now, where did you see it? Okay, location. Where do they live? Where do you see it? Okay, Preeti, that long voyage is called a migration. It's migration. Okay, Parminder says, I saw it in a bird sanctuary. Where in the bird sanctuary? So again, this is where you want to go for details. When you're planning your ideas, when you're visualizing, go for details. Okay, so you saw it in a bird sanctuary. Where in the bird sanctuary? Bagzod says, I saw it in the zoo. That's okay as well. Sure. Bird sanctuary or zoo. Where in the zoo? National park is okay as well. Just make sure to choose one. Hung says the national park, but be more specific. So, okay, there's the national park or there's the zoo, but where's the actual hummingbird? Baghdad says in my hometown of Tashkent. Sure, it's possible as well. Never be able to spell that word, I think. Oh, there we go. I spelt it. It was a tough one. Rhododendrons. Okay, rhododendrons. Flying around some rhododendrons. Rhododendron is a type of flower that hummingbirds like, but you could choose any flower. Tulips, okay, for example. Kesey says the tree in front of my home. Sure, what kind of a tree is it, Kesey? Maybe a cherry blossom. Okay, so name the actual flower. Okay, all right, good. Okay, we thought about all of this, some good planning. What do I need to do before my 1 minute is finished? So I have 1 minute to plan. I identified hummingbird. I thought about its appearance. It's colorful. It's tiny. It's 7 centimeters long. I thought about its behavior. It flies very quickly. It drinks the nectar of flowers. I thought about where I saw it, in front of my house, drinking the flower of a rhododendron. And now I need my first sentence. Hi, Danish. Okay. So first sentence. Okay, give me your first sentence. What should be your first sentence here for this one? And members, we're doing a lot of discussion here. We're doing a lot of chat and writing. I really encourage you to actually practice saying this part 2 at home, okay? Welcome, Danish, to the group. Go ahead and comment, answer questions. Make sure to send me an email so I can hook you up with perks, Danish. Happy to have you on board. All right. Yep, Kesey. So preparing our first sentence is very important. Right away. What should it be? Parminder, too general. Okay, right from my childhood, I have always been interested in knowing about different animals. I didn't ask you about your childhood, Parminder, and about different animals. Be specific, okay? Be specific to the question. It's Parminder, when you say a sentence like that for your first sentence, it sounds like you're just using memorized sentences or ideas, and the examiners don't like that. They want you to be very specific. Yagjit, I am what? Roshni. Okay, Begzad says an animal that I've seen in a zoo of my hometown of Tashkent is a hummingbird. Yes, Begzad, you just have one element missing to make it a good first sentence, which is unique. Okay. Yagjit, same thing as Parminder. You're speaking too generally. We're asking you about an interesting animal that you have seen, not about your curiosity for animals. Preeti, you're closer. At least you're specific to the animal itself. Hung says, the most interesting animal I have seen. Hung, make sure you put the word have in there. That's a very important missing word for the present perfect. The most interesting animal I've seen in a sanctuary was when I went to East America last June, and it was a hummingbird. Amarjit says, one animal that I have seen, which is very interesting, is the hummingbird. Okay, hummingbird. Okay, careful with your grammar, students. All right, and to help you get going, you can even read your first sentence. It's absolutely okay as long as you have it prepared. You can look at your notes and just kind of read it out to the examiner and then start going. It's absolutely fine. You can get a very good band score that way. This is my sentence here. Repeat after me. Again, this is speaking, so make sure to speak, not just write. Speak and repeat. Okay, so follow with me. One of the most unique animals I've had the fortune to observe in nature is the hummingbird. All right, it includes the present perfect. Okay, unique, interesting, paraphrasing. Okay, and the animal right away. This is your band 9 first sentence. Okay. Kesey says, I've seen an interesting bird in front of my house on a cherry blossom tree called a hummingbird. Yeah, and hummingbird is one word, I believe. Yeah. Preeti says, the most beautiful animal which I have seen since my childhood is a hummingbird. Preeti, that works much better, okay? Beautiful means it's interesting because beauty is interesting, so you can go with that one, Preeti. Roshni says, I still remember the unique colors of the hummingbird that still I have not found in any other bird. Okay, that's better, Roshni, so it's more specific. All right, so let's continue with this. So my first sentence is, one of the most unique animals I've had the fortune to observe in nature is the hummingbird. Now, clearly, just like with people, it makes sense to describe its appearance firstly. Okay? So what would be a good sentence to continue with? Actually, I'm going to put it down here. So what would be a good sentence to continue with here? One of the most unique animals I've had the fortune to observe in nature is the hummingbird. What would be a good way to continue? Use your logic, use your notes. So right away, we want to describe its appearance, and definitely one of the most characteristic aspects of the hummingbird is its size. That's right, Preeti, its size and its characteristics, what it looks like. Yes. As far as I know, it is the tiniest bird among all avians. Among all avian. I guess there's no plural for that one. So as far as I know, it is the tiniest bird among all avian. Avian is a very interesting way to paraphrase bird. Okay, another way we call birds, it's quite unique. It's an academic word, is avian. Avian means they fly. Okay, I believe the size of the one I saw, or I have seen, is about 10 centimeters. And most of its length is the long beak. Okay, now I realize that you might not be able to describe it using these words, so you might not come up with the word avian, but this is what you're going for, okay? This is what you want to reach for. Begzod says, if I remember correctly, it has a size of 10 centimeters long or length with a pointy beak. Yeah, very good. Also, it was very colorful. I distinctly remember its bright red, yellow, and green feathers. Okay, sure. Now you can summarize that by saying it is absolutely a beautiful creature, and this certainly makes it very interesting for me to look at. Okay? All right. So some good description there. Okay, let's repeat one more time. So here I'm pushing you to do a little bit of practice as well. So Preeti, Roshni, Kisi, Amarjit, Hung, please repeat after me, and our new members as well. Repeat after me. One of the most unique animals I've had the fortune to observe in nature is the hummingbird. As far as I know, it is the tiniest bird among all avian. I believe the size of the one I have seen is around 10 centimeters, and most of its length is the long beak. Also, it was very colorful. I distinctly remember its bright red, yellow, and green feathers. It is absolutely a beautiful creature, and this certainly makes it very interesting for me to look at. Okay? Now, any mistakes? Students, have I made any mistakes in what I've written so far? Can you see any mistakes in my speaking, my description? Meanwhile, I'll read Preeti and Kisi's comments. Preeti says, its size is like a small mouse, between 7 to 10 centimeters with a long pointy beak. Preeti, that's good. You're using your notes. Excellent. Kisi says it is the smallest bird, which is only 5 to 10 centimeters with a long beak. The most attractive aspect is its colorful feathers, blue, red, and white. Okay, Kisi, remember, always avoid that word thing. Attractive characteristic or attractive aspect. Okay. Are there any mistakes here? Bagzod says makes. Yes. What do you mean, Bagzod? What should that be? Was is okay, Preeti, because remember the question is talking about an interesting animal that I have seen. So here I can use the past tense, the past perfect, the present perfect, and I can use some present, but not with the verbs. Okay? So here it should be made. Okay, watch your tenses. Students, be really, really careful with your tenses. Here, you have to remember that you're talking about an animal that you have seen. So it certainly made it very interesting for me to look at. Okay, would be correct. So past tense, made. All right. Yeah, I need to use the past simple there, Begzod. Very good. All right. Okay, so I'm moving along nicely. Now I can get into its behavior. Before the behavior, it's probably a good idea to give the listener some context of where I saw it. So now is when I want to explain that very quickly before I want to talk about its behavior. Okay, so all right. So um, again, just repeat after me. I wanted to show you a little bit here the fluency that can come about when you're visualizing this. So this has never actually happened in my life. I have been to Mexico, but I have never seen a hummingbird fly around a cactus flower. I just made it up. I was visualizing it. Repeat after me. I saw the hummingbird last year when my family and I visited a bird sanctuary in Mexico on a family vacation. It was flying around a cactus flower, drinking the nectar. Of course, this explains the long beak of the hummingbird. I learned later that the reason it drinks nectar is because it is full of sugar and is a high source of energy for this fast-flying tiny little bird, sort of like rocket fuel. Okay. Again, one more time. I know that was a little bit fast. It's okay if you couldn't keep pace. One more time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I saw the hummingbird last year when my family and I visited a bird sanctuary in Mexico on a family vacation. It was flying around a cactus flower, drinking the nectar. Of course, this explains the long beak of the hummingbird. I learned later that the reason it drinks nectar is because it's full of sugar and is a high source of energy for this fast-flying tiny little bird, sort of like rocket fuel. Okay? Notice how I'm using sort of like rocket fuel. So a simile. Okay? Similes are when you make a similarity between two ideas. Here, I'm making a similarity between nectar, which is the sugary dew of flowers, with rocket fuel, okay, high energy. All right. Begzod says the bird not only could fly so fast, which was quite hard to observe, but also has unique colors on its feathers, gray, red, and green. Okay, I already have the colors up here, Begzod, so I wouldn't want to repeat that. But if you haven't said anything about the colors, that's fine. Just don't be repetitive. Okay, Parminder says, the interesting fact about hummingbirds is that it is the only bird that can fly backwards. Very good, Parminder, that works, okay? Kisi says, I saw the hummingbird this spring standing on a pink cherry tree. Wow, that's really unique. Kisi, it's rare to see a hummingbird not actually flying. It spends most of its time flying around. They're very rare to see not flying, so interesting. Okay, good. So talking about where we saw it, puts it into context for the listener, for the examiner. Okay, practice similes, students, like rocket fuel. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just moving along here. Again, I really want to show you that fluency is possible. So I know that at times we really go just slowly sentence by sentence. And right now I'm building these sentences faster because I want you to see that I can come up with these sentences and you can come up with these sentences much faster as well when you have good notes and when you have a clear picture in your mind. Plus, I want to show you how you can build your vocabulary as well here with some good words. So, certainly one of the most intriguing aspects of the hummingbird was its incredibly fast, agile flight. Okay? Intriguing is another way to say interesting, curious. Okay? Somewhat akin to that of a helicopter. Akin is another way to say like or similar to. Okay? In fact, this bird is the only one among all birds which can not only fly stationary but also backwards. At times, the bird was flying so quickly that I had trouble keeping my eye on it. Okay? All right. So we're moving along quite nicely. We're answering all of the questions. At this point, I definitely want to go back and make sure that I've answered all of the questions that's being asked of me on the card. And I'm reflecting the grammar. So talk about an interesting animal that you have seen, what it is and what it looks like. When did you see it? Okay, I talked about that. Where was it? I talked about that. What made this animal so interesting? I talked about that. So I have lots of good information. I've answered all the questions. What should I do now? Should I just stop talking? So I've probably been talking for about a minute. The examiner hasn't stopped me. What should I do? Should I just stop and say, okay, I'm finished. I answered all the questions. Okay, Amarjeet says this bird can fly thousands of kilometers and cover large distances in a short time. Danish says no. Hung says keep talking. But how? I don't want to just talk about anything and everything. I have to stay on topic. Danish says, well, let's just keep talking till the examiner stops us. But how? I don't want to go off topic. What should I do? I've looked at the card. I answered all the questions. And yeah, you can keep talking until the examiner stops you, but you have to talk on topic. If you go on off topic, your score will start to go down. So what should I do here? And hopefully some of you are thinking, well, Adrian, you can look at your notes and see if you have any information on your notes that you haven't used. Okay, so that's what I do. So I look at my notes and I go, okay, I've used all of that. I've talked about agile, flying backwards, wings can move in many directions, drinking nectar of the flowers, high energy. I talked about that. Wait a second. Unique, high-pitched sound or chirp. I haven't talked about that. Migrate long distance, find their way home. I haven't talked about that. So there's a couple pieces in my notes I haven't used yet. Use them, okay? That's why you wrote down those notes, okay? So use them. Oh, and I just remembered, aside from its beautiful appearance and incredible flight, the hummingbird also made these loud, high-pitched chirps. Certainly one of the most interesting bird songs I've had the pleasure of hearing. As well, the information plaque at the exhibit at the sanctuary mentioned that these birds migrate thousands of kilometers every year. That's unbelievable. When considering its tiny size. For all these reasons, the hummingbird has to be one of the most interesting animals I have seen. Okay? All right, so don't forget your notes. Now, by this time, I'm sure the examiner will have stopped you. So, members, from the top, here we go. Repeat after me. One of the most unique animals I've had the fortune to observe in nature is the hummingbird. As far as I know, it is the tiniest bird among all avian. I believe the size of the one I have seen is about 10 centimeters, and most of its length is the long beak. Also, it was very colorful. I distinctly remember its bright red, yellow, and green feathers. It is absolutely a beautiful creature, and this certainly made it very interesting for me to look at. I saw the hummingbird last year when I was with my family, and I visited a bird sanctuary in Mexico on a vacation. It was flying around a cactus flower, drinking the nectar. Of course, this explains the long beak of the hummingbird. I learned later that the reason it drinks nectar is because it's full of sugar, and it's a high source of energy for this fast-flying tiny bird, sort of like rocket fuel. Certainly one of the most interesting aspects of the hummingbird was its incredibly fast, agile flight, somewhat akin to that of a helicopter. In fact, this bird is the only one among all birds which can not only fly stationary but also backwards. At times, the bird was flying so quick that I had trouble keeping my eye on it. Oh, and I just remembered, aside from its beautiful appearance and incredible flight, the hummingbird also made this loud, high-pitched, or these loud, high-pitched chirps. Certainly, one of the most interesting bird songs I've had the pleasure of hearing. As well, the information plaque at the sanctuary mentioned that these birds migrate thousands of kilometers every year. That's unbelievable when considering its tiny size. For all these reasons, the hummingbird has to be one of the most interesting animals I have ever seen. Okay, so that would be a Band 9 natural, fast, complete response. Yes, it's possible to do that. Okay, now, of course, do what's in your capacity. And members, I challenge you to choose another animal and answer this cue card question again. Record it on your phone and send it to me. Okay, so here's the question again. Do it at home for practice. It's kind of a fun one. Pick a different animal. It will also help you to learn some vocabulary. So talk about an interesting animal that you have seen. You should say what it is, what it looks like. When did you see it? Where was it? What made it so interesting? All right, members, some great participation. I know that was challenging. But remember, you can't know what will be on your next IELTS speaking cue card. So be ready for challenging questions. They're good to practice, okay? So practice this one with a unique animal of your choosing. I look forward to it. I think it will be fun to listen to what you've come up with. And for all of our viewers, remember to join us on our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS help, and gieltshelp.com for general. Shortly, in 30 minutes, we will continue with speaking part 3, which will be connected to this speaking part 2. Okay, so join in if you have time and practice the follow-up questions, the specific questions of speaking part 3. All of you who are commenting, you've done a fantastic job. Thank you, members, for your great participation. That's all for now. See you in half an hour. Bye-bye.